we're back. It's time to look at the new characters introduced in the Commander decks from Marvel. Remember, this is not an analysis of what the cards actually do, just looking at who the characters are. So while there are new cards for Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, etc., all in the Avengers Assemble deck, I've already mentioned them in another video. Go watch that one. Anyways, Avengers Assemble, the red, white, and blue deck. This is the color combination that Captain America always had to be. It's a collection of hero cards, cards that pay off for having heroes, and generally is just, yay, good guys. There's a lot of repeat characters here, but also a few new ones. The first is Jarvis, Iron Man's butler. In the movies, he's been relegated to an AI that runs everything, but as a human character in the comics, he's much more interesting. Without the additional baggage of having to actually hold serious emotional weight like Alfred does with Batman, Jarvis is free to be sassy, a bit of comic relief, and when he actually steps in to be awesome, it's genuinely surprising and impactful. While Professor Hulk is not technically a new character, it is at least worth noting that this happens to the Hulk every once in a while. He just gets to keep his intelligence. Never really lasts that long. West Coast Expansion references when Hawkeye was tasked with making an Avengers team operating out of California instead of New York. Turns out there's a lot of demons in California. Nowadays, it's a team for rehabbing former villains. Rescue is the name that Tony Stark's love interest slash secretary slash business partner slash moral compass takes when he gives her a suit of Iron Man armor so she can fight crime with him when they go on the run from Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin. Sometimes Marvel likes to pretend that Norman Osborn is actually Lex Luthor and lets him make big problems. Fun fact, in the comics, Pepper Potts is married to Happy Hogan, not Tony Stark, and her real first name is Virginia. Firebird, real name Bonita Juarez, got fire powers from a meteorite that crashed right in front of her. She is Catholic and based her costume on the Native American myth of the Firebird. She's been around in the comics, but not too much. I guess they needed more red cards? Jocasta is yet another attempt by Ultron to create a robot that will do what he wants. This time, he wanted a wife. So just as he was created by Hank Pym, Ultron took the brain patterns of Pym's wife, Janet Van Dyne, and tried to make himself a robot wife. It didn't work, she had too much free will and decided to be a hero, falling in love with Machine Man, and eventually working for Tony Stark as his chief robot officer of ethics. Not so many new characters in that deck. This next one, the Fantastic Four, will have a lot to talk about, partially because I purposefully skipped talking about the Fantastic Four in the video about the heroes. There's a card for the entire team, so let me start with the origin of the team. The story of the Fantastic Four has been told a few different ways. The initial version was a team going into space, which in the early 60s was still a very cool and daring thing to do. While in space, they encountered cosmic rays, which can do anything you want them to. In this case, they fundamentally altered their bodies, giving them superpowers. Other incarnations of the team got their powers from intentionally going near cosmic rays, but accidentally getting too close, or by entering a dimension that sits below this reality called the negative zone. Mr. Fantastic, real name Reed Richards, is one of the smartest people in existence. This means that his main character flaw is his inability to talk to normal people. When he was in college, he was roommates with Doctor Doom, which is how their rivalry started. While Richards is able to solve many problems with cool tech, sometimes that tech comes out of nowhere, looks like BS, and is never used again. His power involves stretching himself, allowing him to reach long distances, as well as sneak into small spaces. Invisible Woman, real name Susan Storm, was engaged to Reed Richards when they went into space. Initially, she was sadly hampered by the greatest weakness of all, which is being a woman in comics in the 60s. Over time, she's proven herself not just as a powerful member of her own team, but capable of working on her own with other teams, and generally being a pretty awesome lady. She can make herself, and sometimes others, invisible, as well as project very powerful force fields. Human Torch, real name Johnny Storm, is the showboat brother of Susan Storm. In the initial run, he was a high school student, which makes it surprising that they let him go into space. He's probably the member of the Fantastic Four that hangs out the most outside of the group. His list of girlfriends is extensive, and we're going to meet one of them later. And of course, his power is to set himself on fire, as well as shoot flames. The Thing, real name Ben Grimm, was a college friend of Reed Richards. He ended up being a decent pilot, meaning he got to pilot them into space. Ben got the raw end of the deal, a big rock monster, while the other three got to look pretty normal still. A lot of early Fantastic Four involved Ben and Reed trying to cure the thing's condition, though they never succeeded. Its power is being a big rock monster, which makes him very strong and tough. Reed and Sue have two children. Their first, Franklin, is the MacGuffin from the new movie, as he is a mutant born with the ability to harness cosmic power. He has a claim to being the most powerful being not just on Earth, but in mortal existence. His card depicts an act that he has done more than once, which is creating brand new realities. Their second child is Valeria. While she does not have the abilities of her brother, she inherited more than her share of both her parents' intelligence, meaning that just like Franklin is more powerful than anyone, Valeria is possibly smarter than anyone. The children are used sparingly in the comics, as their insane potential means they can solve just about any problem they come up against. We've looked at kids, now let's look at girlfriends. Reed and Sue are already together, but the other boys on the team can get lonely. Johnny has had plenty of girls, one of which is the princess of the Inhuman Kingdom, Crystal. We'll talk about her in a bit. More importantly, Ben Grimm gets to have a girlfriend too, Alicia Masters, a blind sculptor, and she is one of the few people who naturally sees the soul underneath all that stone. And while I never want to imagine what they do when the doors are closed, their romance is constantly adorable, and the thing deserves to have a little happiness. Any villain who messes with her is the absolute worst. Next, let's look at various tech accessories for the Fantastic Four. Most famously, we have the Fantasticar, the dumbest named object in Marvel canon, aside from maybe the Thanos copter. A modular flying vehicle for the team was cool in the 60s, but its repeated inclusion just makes it look kind of dopey. Herbie, or Humanoid Experimental Robot B-Type Integrated Electronics, was initially invented for the TV show, then later adapted into the comics. Yes, there was a TV show. He's a useful helper robot with a sassy personality, always sort of in the background and every once in a while elevated to very important status. Dragon Man was invented by a university professor that missed his family, so, like you do, he made a giant dragon robot. Over the years, he would be possessed, reprogrammed, abused, manipulated, and otherwise not taken seriously. But he would eventually be taken in by the Fantastic Four, and Reed Richards updated his intelligence, and as thanks, he serves as a protector for Franklin and Valeria. The Negative Zone portal is how the Fantastic Four from the early 2000s got their powers. Exploring a mode of teleportation, Reed Richards would get funding to build a large-scale version of his small device, but a miscalculation would send him and his team through another reality. Later, they would stabilize the portal and discover another world, and its leader, Annihilus, who has a very trustworthy name. That's him in the portal with the big wings. Speaking of other realities, the Council of Reeds is not a reference to Rick and Morty, but in fact the other way around. Started by three Reeds who had all the Infinity Stones, they decided to collect all the smart guys, aka themselves, and solve problems instead of dealing with their families. They got blown up by cosmic beings, then the main universe Reed beat the cosmic beings, and then they decided to make a new council, but maybe also think about your kids sometimes. Willie Lumpkin is a normal mailman. His special power, according to the wiki, is that he can wiggle his ears. But his real ability is that he is faithful, loyal, and timely. Time and time again, the Fantastic Four have counted on Willie to not just deliver mail, but to press important buttons while they're out of the building, bring messages to dangerous individuals, or travel through time to save them. It's possible that the Fantastic Four would not exist as they do today without this normal guy. The first actual massive threat the Fantastic Four faced was Galactus, but first they faced the Silver Surfer. Norrin Rad, who is not wary, serves Galactus as payment for not destroying his world. He came to Earth to herald the coming of his master, but Alicia Masters, already the Thing's girlfriend, saw good in him, and Norrin Rad saw that she was a hot chick, and so he rebelled against his master. Galactus is a normal guy, or at least he was. The current canon of Marvel is the seventh iteration of existence. When one existence is about to end and the cosmic beings are making a new one, sometimes people slip through, and Galactus was one of them, fusing with a powerful entity and becoming this planet-eating powerhouse. We know what big cosmic jerks are like, so here's a picture of Galactus fighting Ultraman. This is canon. Finally, we get to the other families. Fantastic Four are often called the first family, as they were literally the first cohesive family unit to be all collected in one story. But they were not the last. The Power Pack are four kids that were granted power by an alien. They can switch who uses which power, which makes it a little confusing. They're in this deck because they're good friends with Franklin, who sometimes joins them as the fifth team member. Another important family is the Inhuman Royal Family. Briefly, Inhumans are sort of like mutants, except without all the metaphors for prejudice and intolerance. They were created by the Kree aliens to help fight the Skrulls, but later they decided that was a dumb idea and left them on Earth. Like mutants, there's latent genes that can get activated, but the process that activates an Inhuman will instead kill a mutant, so that's an important plot point. Anyways, we'll start with Crystal, the daughter. She can manipulate the four elements, thus her ability to make four colors of mana. Johnny fell in love with her because apparently she was just that unbelievably hot. Crystal often goes against her parents' wishes and helps humans, though she just as often stands with her family. Her loyal pet is Lockjaw, the big dog from the Pet Avengers that can teleport people. The dog is also an inhuman, though using the term inhuman for a dog feels weird. In dog still sounds weird. He is a good boy. The queen of the Inhumans is Medusa, real name Medusalith Amaquilin. If you think that's on the nose, give me a minute, we'll get weirder. Medusa has the power to use her very, very long red hair as prehensile weapons, grabbing things, whipping, and smacking people. She was initially a villain of the Fantastic Four, though these days the Inhumans have more of a tenuous alliance with humanity. Remember Medusa's silly name? Let's meet Black Bolt, real name Blackagar Boltagon. He is the king of the Inhumans, husband and second cousin to Medusa, and his power is that his voice creates devastating shockwaves, to the point that even a whisper would be catastrophic, so he never speaks. As an important ruler, Black Bolt has been invited to the Smart Person team along with Reed Richards, Namor, and Black Panther, plus a few others. I wish we got a card for the Illuminati. They're kind of important. Alright, that's a lot of talking. Let's go to the villain deck. Again, I'm going to be skipping over characters we've already discussed, so I'm not going to be rehashing Doctor Doom. Red Ghost, a Russian scientist, sought to recreate the accident that created the Fantastic Four. However, as he was a weird Russian scientist, he did not have any siblings, friends, or hot blondes, so he used the next best thing: trained monkeys. The accident worked, meaning now Red Ghost was the proud controller of super apes. He annoyed the Fantastic Four a lot, but not too much, because, monkeys. The Squadron Sinister was created as counterparts to an alternate reality team called the Squadron Supreme, which itself is a poorly veiled Justice League ripoff. They had a sun-powered flying strong guy, an edgy dark guy with animal-themed gear, and a strong royal female. Totally different. The Squadron Sinister was made to mimic the Supreme's members, and then they fought the Avengers a lot. Typhoid Mary is one of the Kingpin's best enforcers. Sadly, she also has dissociative identity disorder, meaning that she is sometimes the innocent Mary, the dangerous Typhoid Mary, or, very problematically, the uncontrollable Bloody Mary who just kills whoever she wants. At one point, she fell in love with Daredevil, which made killing him difficult. Molecule Man was created by beings outside the universe, a version of him being put in every reality, that had power over molecules, so basically everything. He was created to blow up in every reality at the same time and end all of existence. However, the main reality version traveled around with Doctor Doom, killing his alternate selves, but this also made realities crash into each other. Eventually, he worked with Doom to collect all the cosmic power and make Doom into God for a while, and then Molecule Man worked with Reed and Franklin Richards to make a bunch of new realities. Tri-Sentinel is a special overpowered version of normal Sentinels, massive robots designed to detect the genetic signature of mutants and eliminate them. Being big robots, they make for easy things for the X-Men to blow up, and being made of metal, they make for easy things for Magneto to control. The Tri-Sentinel specifically was made when Loki merged three prototypes and had to go blow up a nuclear power plant. The Frightful Four, which is two less than the Sinister Six, is made up of Medusa from the other deck, Sandman from the Spider-Man set, the Wizard, who is not actually a wizard, he's just good at inventing things, and Paste Pot Pete, who shoots glue out of a gun. The group was formed from multiple people who had all lost to the Human Torch individually, so they teamed up to take him on, forgetting that Johnny Storm is also on a team of 4. Ironmonger, or Obadiah Stane, was not Tony Stark's business partner like in the movie. He was his rival and was able to successfully take over Stark Industries at a time when Tony was extra alcoholic. His scientists were able to reverse engineer notes about the Iron Man armor, creating the Ironmonger suit. It is much larger than the Iron Man suit, but that also makes it clunky. Batroc the Leaper, Batroc the Leaper, is a very silly concept. He's not a superhuman, and he can't jump super high. He's just very athletic, leaping around the battlefield and kicking super hard. He is also what I would describe as almost dangerously French. Puppet Master is able to control objects that he sculpts himself, though that's just the start. If he makes an effigy of a person, he can manipulate that effigy, and like a voodoo doll, he can then control that person. His first target was the Thing, since rocks are easy to sculpt. However, that was super awkward, as it turns out that he's Alicia Master's father. Stiltman and Living Laser are iconic mostly because they're kind of silly. Living Laser does show up in Iron Man comics from time to time, but he's never been a big player. And Stiltman, well, he is a guy with big legs. He's another Iron Man villain, since he has a metal suit, but he's even less effective, since his entire ability set is has big legs. Not much detail here. Alright, after the characters, let's look at some support cards from this deck. It's got quite a few. Kang Dynasty is a storyline where Kang decides that he's going to bring a giant 30th century ship shaped like a sword to Earth, and then finally take over the 20th century. This goes surprisingly well for him, as Earth eventually surrenders, leaving the Avengers as the last line of defense. The first 2 chapters are Kang convincing the heroes that he's actually here to help them, and at the end he cashes in all that goodwill and smacks them silly. Glorious Purpose depicts Loki's quest to find his place in a world where he's torn between 2 families. As he schemes, he builds up his power, and at the very end, he unleashes a big burst of magic onto his enemies. Age of Ultron is a fun one. In the comics, Ultron actually wins, successfully defeating the heroes and annihilating humanity. In order to stop this, Wolverine goes back in time to before Hank Pym creates Ultron, and, well, there's only one way Wolverine solves problems. The saga is pretty straightforward. First, you kill people, then you make robot minions, then you power up all your robots and you kill everybody. Alright, one more deck to go, the Wakanda Forever deck. There's not a lot of this deck covered in the main set, so like the Fantastic Four deck, I'm probably going to be going over a lot. I will note that, yes, Storm, member of the X-Men, is sometimes the wife of T'Challa, making her the Queen of Wakanda. I did mention this in the other hero video, but it seemed like something I would want to mention again. Bast is one of the gods of Wakanda, the patron goddess of the Black Panther. Despite the Society of Wakanda not having big pyramids, Bast is, in real life, or however real this sort of thing is, an Egyptian goddess, as are the rest of the pantheon of Wakanda. Other gods and goddesses have their own champions, which Black Panther sometimes finds himself at odds with. T'Chaka is the father of T'Challa, which means he's the former king and former Black Panther. He met Captain America back when he hadn't been lost in the ice yet, and received the Captain's old triangle shield as a gift because he was about to get a cool new vibranium one. T'Chaka died protecting his son from Claw's sonic attack, and T'Challa got swift payback by shooting Claw with his own sonic weapon and blasting his hand off. Everett Ross has no relation to General Ross or his daughter, which would have been hilarious. As the only pale skin in the entire deck, he does stand out a bit. He met the Wakandans when he was assigned as their escort in New York, and his flavor text references the fact that he had to escort half a dozen people in a 2-seat convertible, and their shenanigans led to the entire group getting arrested and Everett losing his pants. Do not worry, the devil gave him new pants. A quick mention of the Hatut Zarazi. While the Dwarf Malage are the personal guard of royalty that sometimes go on cool missions, the Hatuts Zarazi are more like the secret police, taking care of dealing with threats to the kingdom, both foreign and domestic. They don't have a single important leader per se, so they just get a card that's a collection of dudes. Ramonda is actually from South Africa. She helped T'Challa be reunited with his father when he was a boy, and stayed in Wakanda to help him recover. Ramonda eventually fell in love with the king, T'Chaka, and they were married. Shuri is her daughter, making her and T'Challa half-siblings. She is a wise advisor to the king, no matter which king it is, and has tricked the little literal devil before. M'Baku, in the movie, is a chief of a rival tribe, one that is not the ruling class. In the comics, this is still the case, but he's much more actively antagonistic to the crown. He's the champion of the ape god, Gekri, and has tried to take over the throne of Wakanda multiple times. He got his powers from killing a rare white gorilla, eating its heart, and bathing in its blood, which is both evil and very metal. Nakia has maybe the biggest change from the movie. In the movie, she's a protege of the Dora Milaje, who ends up dying in the big battle against Killmonger. In the comics, she's irrationally infatuated with T'Challa. She was unable to effectively perform her tasks as a member of the Dora Milaje. Then she became a villain. So aside from the name and starting with the personal guard, she's a completely different character. This card seems to embrace the movie version, as does the M'Baku card, so I guess that's happening. Wakabi is not in the comics as much. He ends up being T'Challa's head of security, so sort of the Happy Hogan of Wakanda. In the movie, he has a similar role, because it's just one movie. Yeah, it feels like a bigger role. There he stays loyal to the throne, not to T'Challa, making him the leader of the army that goes up against the Dora Milaje at the end. Forrest Whitaker, I mean Zuri, was a friend of T'Challa as well as his father, serving as an advisor for both. Again, the role is fairly similar in the movie, but given more impact due to its, being one movie instead of a few hundred comics. The card at least gives Zuri the sick abs he's supposed to have. Forrest Whitaker needs to hit the gym. Let's look at some of the support cards here. We've got tech, we've got rituals, we've got everything. King Solomon's frogs were owned by King Solomon, from the Bible, and can move people and objects through time. They are included here because they are the plot device from the very first Black Panther comic. The Midnight Angel armor is for, of course, the Midnight Angels, a subgroup of the Dora Milaje that do all of the fun covert assassinating that the normal Dora Milaje probably wish they got to do more often. The Spear of Bashenga is wielded by Zuri, though the Black Panther does use it from time to time. It's made of vibranium, but has no mystical properties. Nonetheless, it is a symbol of the Black Panther, as it has been passed down from the very first one. Ancestral Communion shows the Black Panther's ability to go into a ritual-induced trance and communicate with past Black Panthers, looking for advice or guidance. This is also where Killmonger would go to look for approval, and all the old Black Panthers told him to maybe tone it down a bit with all the killing. Kimoyo beads are the Apple Watch of Wakanda, using their advanced tech and vibranium to store information, communicate with others, project a holographic display, and store medical information about the individual. Because their tech is tied to the natural vibranium of Wakanda, they stop working outside of the nation. Niami-class ships are named for T'Chaka's first wife, T'Challa's mother. They can operate deep underwater as well as in space, have a complement of 150 special troops and 10 attack ships, and are capable of leveling a small city. What the isolationist nation of Wakanda needs with such overpowered ships is unclear, but they seem to need them a lot. The Black Panther suit is laced with vibranium, which I should probably talk about here, finally. Vibranium, like the namesake word vibrate, is able to absorb vibration or other kinetic energies. Used as a part of Captain America's shield, this allows these cool ricochets, as it doesn't lose momentum from bouncing. And as part of Black Panther's suit, at least in modern times, it allows him to absorb hits that would otherwise incapacitate. Giant panther robots are totally a thing, but they're just kinda sorta there? They don't come up in the comics nearly enough to even have their own fandom wiki page. At least Affinity players have more cards now. Shuri is a big tech genius, needs ways to manufacture her ideas, and using Wakanda's advanced tech, she created her fabricator, basically a very fancy 3D printer. This appears to be something probably taken from the movies, but she does have cool tech like this in the comics. The vibranium strike gauntlets are similarly invented just for the movie. What's not from the movie is the heart-shaped herb. Believed to be a gift from Bast, it was actually from a plant that had been mutated by a giant vibranium meteorite. It is what grants the Black Panther his or her amazing powers. There is, of course, a skull-shaped herb for bad guys, but Doctor Doom has that locked up for now. All right, three down, one more to go. The last one is going to be looking at the Jumpstart packs one at a time. There's a couple of cards from each one that's new, but I will be going through all of those, and once I'm done with that, you will know everything about the Marvel lore, at least from the cards. Thank you.